The winning blueprint presents
in the lab room.
You look at the next game on the matchup. This is a big one. This is a big one this week. Now, a lot of people are talking about it. But if you're an Indianapolis Colts fan, this is a huge game. The Colts are going on the road to take on the Detroit Lions. Tell you why this is a big matchup. The Lions aren't in anything. You know, they don't have anything to lose, nothing to gain. But they're ready to play spoilers now. They're not going anywhere. It doesn't mean that they want everyone else to go somewhere. Misery loves company. And the Detroit Lions are at home. And they've played well enough probably the last 2 weeks to win games. They should have beat the Packers 2 weeks ago. But they're not a good team, so they found a way to lose. They should have beat the Texans on Thanksgiving. But they found a way to lose. They're not a good team. So you see the trend going there. They're not a good football team. However, the Colts aren't a good team on the road. If they want to go to the postseason, they need to start winning games on the road. I'm not asking them to win every game on the road. I think they have 3 or 2 games remaining on the road, one or the other. I'm not asking them to sweep those games up on the road. Because we know one of those games on the road is against the Texans. I don't see them winning that game. However, they do need to start beating teams that aren't good on the road. That's what this Colts team has done all season. They've beat teams that aren't very good. Of their 7 wins, I venture to say 5 of them, at least 5, maybe 6, have come against teams with losing records. They don't win games that often against teams that are very good. One comes to mind. They beat the Minnesota Vikings at home. They beat the Green Bay Packers. So those are 2 teams that are solid that they were able to beat. But I can't think of any other team with a winning record that they've beat all season. So they need to continue getting fat off of less than stellar competition. And that's what this Detroit Lions team is. And don't let the 4-7 mark fool you. They can score points. They can rack up yards. This Colts defense has to show up. Calvin Johnson leads the league in receiving yards. What Colt defender do you know that can stop him one-on-one? Hell, they might put 2 on him. I don't care. I don't think they can stop Calvin Johnson. So their goal is to score points, get after Matthew Stafford, force him into some errant throws. Because you know, once he gets flustered, he'll start throwing sidearm and he'll start doing a whole bunch of herky-jerky type of stuff. Give you opportunities to make plays. When they present themselves, you must make them. Don't allow them to run the football with Mikael LaShore and Joyke Bell. Those guys, they get it going on the ground, and then you sprinkle in a little bit of Calvin Johnson, and all of a sudden Ryan Broyles is starting to emerge as a possible second receiver across from Calvin Johnson. Then you look at the tight end group with Brandon Pettigrew and Scheffler and that group. They can get it done. So if you're the Colts, you got to play some good defense in this game. You got to play good defense. You got to get after Matthew Stafford. You got to sustain offense. You need to score points. That's the key. You got to find a way to win on the road. I don't trust you on the road, however. I don't trust this Detroit Lions team, but I don't trust you more on the road. And so I'm going with the Detroit Lions in this game because I think that they're going to outscore you in this game. We've seen that Andrew Luck doesn't mind turning it over when he goes on the road. And so I think this Lions team can get 2 interceptions out of him, force a fumble off of him, get 3 turnovers, win this football game 27-20. And so this is going to be a game worth keeping an eye on because if the Colts want to make the postseason, they have to win 9 games. They've already got 7 wins, so you're just asking them to win 2 out of their final 5 games. But if they're not able to beat teams on the road, I don't know if they're going to be able to make hay in the AFC. They may make it to the postseason. But as we know, if they make it, we know they're going on the road. First game off the bat because they're going to make it as either a 5 seed or a 6 seed. Either way, you're on the road. They're not winning their division, and so they got to go on the road. If they can't win games on the road against good teams, which we know that's all the playoff has to offer is good teams. There aren't any more Jacksonville Jaguars. There aren't any more Tennessee Titans. There aren't any more Detroit Lions. There aren't any more Kansas City Chiefs. Those teams go away. When the postseason begins, it's all good teams. And if you can't beat good teams on the road, then you need not even show up for the postseason. Give it to someone else. Give someone else your spot that can play on the road and get it done. There's plenty of teams that wouldn't mind going into someone's house, smacking them around, and coming out with the win. You don't seem to be one of those teams. And if you're not going to be one of the teams participating in some house calls and smacking people around at their own house, then you need to leave it alone. You need to give that spot to the Bengals, give it to the Steelers, give it to someone else that will use that playoff spot adequately. Because as it seems right now, you don't want to go on the road and beat good teams. Not saying that this Lions team is a good team, but it's probably one of the better teams that you've faced all year long on the road in terms of teams that you should be able to beat. You've played the Patriots on the road. We saw how that movie ended. You played the Jets on the road. They're not even a good team, and they beat the brakes off of you. So you need to find a way to beat a team on the road that can score points. And this Detroit Lions is just what the doctor ordered, because they can score points, they can turn you over, they can win this game if you don't come out and exert dominance over them. And I don't see you doing it. 27-20, Lions get the win. Lions go to 5-7 on the season. Meanwhile, the Indianapolis Colts go to 7-5 on the season, and they have to find a way to win at least 2 more games to ensure themselves of 9 wins on the season and a good shot at winning one of those AFC wildcard spots. So we go from one team with playoff aspirations to 2 teams who have playoff aspirations. 2 teams hooking up for the first time this season. 2 teams that are looking to handle some family business. The Minnesota Vikings are traveling to Lambeau to take on the Green Bay Packers. And right now, the Packers need some home cooking. They need some in the worst way. They've been on the road last 2 weeks. Haven't really looked that impressive in either game. Was able to win one. Got shellacked in the other. And so now they're ready to go home. And they're ready to play in front of the Lambeau faithful. And they need to win this game. These Vikings are currently right behind them in the division. They're knocking. They're knocking on the door. And if this Packers team is not careful, because the Packers team that showed up last week, they get beat 9 times out of 10. They don't beat many teams in the National Football League. You don't show up with a lackluster effort like they did on the road a week ago against the defending champion New York Giants and think you're going to beat many teams. And so if they show up like that, where they're giving up in the run game, and look, this is the wrong team to give it up in the run game against. If you allow Adrian Peterson to saddle up this Minnesota Vikings team, strap him up, put him on his back, he'll do it. He doesn't mind putting this team on his back, running for 170 yards, 2 or 3 touchdowns, and beating you in Lambeau Field. If you want to give up the holes that you gave up a week ago to Ahmad Bradshaw in that Giants offense, if you want to allow them to run the football in this game, you'll lose again. I'm just telling you right now, the key to winning this game is making Christian Ponder beat you. If you allow Adrian Peterson to run the football and run it effectively, you're in for a long day. Because he's not going to do what he did last week against the Bears many times. He's not going to drop it and put it on the carpet, several times in a game. That's not what Adrian Peterson does anymore. He used to be a guy that you could get to fumble the football. That's not who he is anymore. And so last week was an aberration. You need to just stop the run. You need to do it the old-fashioned way, because the Bears gave up runs in that game. He got over 100 yards. The only problem was he put it on the carpet twice. That was the difference in the game. But he went over 100 yards. And so if you're not careful and AP gets those legs running, oh, it's AD all day. Yeah, it's AD all day. He's going to be running on you. So you better get your act together. This Green Bay Packers team was in first place. Now they're in second place. They lose this game. Now they're in third place. It can happen that fast. And so they need to turn it back up. Greg Jennings is practicing. That's a good sign. They need offensive help. Okay? They went from one of the most talented offensive teams, the deepest receiving core, to a team that is stumbling and needing help at the receiver position. Jordy Nelson is still working his way back. He's had leg and knee and ankle issues all year long. He's working his way back slowly. If not for Randall Cobb, this team is probably 6-5, 5-6 on the season, because Randall Cobb has been extraordinary this season. One of the big reasons why I don't know if the Packers will be giving up that money to Greg Jennings in the offseason. That's something to keep an eye on. But looking at this team, they need Greg Jennings. But how much money can you spend on your offense? I don't know. But Greg Jennings may be back. Jermichael Finley needs to step his game up. I'm starting to think that he's a Martellus Bennett type, that maybe he needs a change of scenery. Maybe he's a guy that will never fully reach his true potential in the National Football League, because I just think he has lapses in concentration way too often. He drops the football way too often for me. But they need to step it up on offense. We know this defense is banged up, and banged up isn't really even the word to describe what's going on with this Packers defense. There's no Sam Shields. There's no Charles Woodson. There's no Nick Perry. There's no Clay Matthews. I mean, they're hurting. There's several defensive linemen that are injured. They're banged up. And so that's probably where the most problems lie on this team, is defensively. But Aaron Rodgers didn't help the cause last week. He turned the football over. And so they got to get on track. I expect them to get on track at home. This Vikings team, they're starting to realize that it's getting late, and they're outside. It's like the Vikings have been outside playing all day, having fun. It's getting late. Now they need to go home. They're not supposed to be out that late. You know, they want to hang out with the older kids, the big kids. They want to hang out with the Bears, and they want to hang out with the Packers. But these kids are 16 and 17 years old, so they can stay out a little bit longer. You, on the other hand, you're 13 years old. You need to go home. It's getting late, starting to get dark. The street lights are coming on. Time for you to go home. And that's where the Minnesota Vikings are right now. It's time for them to go home. You know, they've been playing outside all day. They've been having fun. They're up over 500. They're 6-5 on the season. They're threatening to get a playoff spot. But this Vikings team isn't good enough to go to the postseason. Are they? I don't think they are. And so it's time for them to go home. You know, you had your fun. Now it's time for you to go home, take your coat off, take your shoes off, get comfortable. And that's what they're going to start to do. I think last week was the start of that. They got beat up on the road against the Chicago Bears. They haven't played the Bears or the Packers up until last week. Now they're getting the Bears and the Packers, 4 times in the next 6 weeks. So I look at that as 4 losses. They may be able to clip one or both of these teams at home. Who knows? But I don't think they're good enough to do that. And I think they're going to struggle down the stretch. And they're going to finally end up in their rightful spot at around 7-9 or 6-10 on the season. I can't see them losing 5 straight. So I'll give them 7-9. They'll get another win somewhere along the way. Maybe 8-8. Either way, they'll find their way home. They won't be outside playing with the big boys when it's all said and done. And so I see the Packers getting it done. 27-21 in this game. Packers elevate their record, and they need this one. They can't afford to lose this game and fall behind these Vikings in the division and go to 3rd place and be on the outside looking in. They need this one, and they're at home, and I think they'll get it. And they'll go to 8-4 on the season. Meanwhile, the Vikings will even up to 6-6. And I think once those losses even up with the wins, they've been running for a long time. Every time those losses start to get close, sniffing around those wins, they win a game or two. They kind of put some distance in between those wins and losses. If these losses finally catch up with the wins, I think the losses are going to finally leave them. If they get even, those losses are leaving. And that's where they'll get in trouble. So I think the Vikings are finally going to realize that, yeah, we probably should start heading home now. It's getting dark. I think that's where they are at the season now. I think they're at that point in the season right now. You look at the next game on the slate, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are traveling to Denver to take on the Broncos. This is a good game. Probably one of the better matchups of Week 13 because these are 2 teams over 500. 2 teams that, even though I haven't played their best football of late, the Broncos were able to squeak out a win on the road, family business against the Chiefs. Wasn't pretty, but it was a win nonetheless. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers had the Atlanta Falcons on the ropes, weren't able to take advantage of some mistakes that the Falcons made and win that football game. And so they lose the game. And they're reeling. They're 6-5 after, winning 5 out of 7 and getting to 6-4 on the season. Now they're starting to slide back down. They're 6-5. And now they need this one. They need this one bad because, again, much like the Minnesota Vikings, those wins and losses get even with each other. I think those losses will start leaving those wins. And one thing I will say about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that I can't say about the Vikings, they have offensive explosion. And they don't mind going on the road, going into your house, raiding your fridge, smacking you around, and then leaving with a W. They don't mind being disrespectful in someone else's house, muddying up your rug, coming in, taking their coat off, throwing it on the floor, going in your fridge and in your pantry and eating up your snacks, drinking up your juices. They don't care. They're very disrespectful to teams at home. They'll come in your house, smack you around. And I love that about this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. They're fearless. They'll go on the road and win games. And so that counts for something. This Denver Broncos team needs to be careful. Because if they have a lackluster performance like they did a week ago, and again, that was family business. Things happen in the family, and look, I understand, I get it. You know, what happens in the family stays in the family. So I'm able to take that with a grain of salt. I'm able to wipe that from the memory bank. That 17-9 win last week doesn't exist. I won't even take that into consideration because that was family business. That was on the road. Kansas City, Arrowhead is still a tough place to win games, even though the Chiefs can't seem to beat anyone there. Doesn't matter. I'm wiping that one from the memory bank. So I think the Broncos are going to go home, play solid football, and I told you this Broncos team was going to be one of those teams that was going to be much different from the beginning to the end of the season. You know, they weren't going to be that same team that struggled with the Falcons, that struggled with the Texans early on. They're going to be a different team come week 14, week 16 of the season. You knew that. Once Peyton Manning got his feet under him, they started to gel. He started to have a connection with Eric Decker and Demaryius Thomas. He started to get his feet wet and started to find guys like Jacob Tamme and Brandon Stokely. He was going to be okay. He was going to be solid. This defense was going to find its way. And now this team has an identity. They know who they are. You know, they're a team that they're going to get after your quarterback. Von Miller is starting to get into a zone where he's rushing the passer, getting to your quarterback. They're going to force you into mistakes. I like this Carter guy out there at corner. You know, I think he's Tony Carter. I like this guy. I like him a lot. I like Champ Bailey, of course. He's still doing his thing at a ripe age of 33, 34, 35. He's still getting it done. He's still Champ Bailey. Then you look at their linebackers. They're getting it done in Denver, forcing you into mistakes. And Peyton Manning is taking those mistakes, turning it into points. So they have an identity. Make you make mistakes. We'll take your mistakes, turn them into points. And Peyton Manning in this offense, yeah, they'll run the football, but this is still a Peyton Manning-driven offense, the Denver Broncos. And so you know who they are. But the key for them in this game is don't allow Josh Freeman in that passing game to get chunks. Make them matriculate the football down the field. That's the key. If you allow them to make big plays to Mike Williams, to Vincent Jackson, to Tyquan Underwood, you sprinkle in a little bit of Dallas Clark, you allow them to make big plays and get chunks, this thing can turn into a shootout. And as we all know, Tampa Bay doesn't have a problem scoring 34 points. Doesn't have a problem scoring 42 points. They've done it this season already. They've done it on the road this season already. Don't forget, they went into Minnesota, put 34 on their head. They went into Oakland, put 42 on their head. Now look, the Raiders and the Vikings are not the Denver Broncos. Not saying it, but I'm just telling you, they don't mind going on the road and scoring points. And don't forget, this is the same team that scored 34 points on the New York Giants. They can score points on the road. They don't care. So you don't want to get in a shootout with this team if you don't have to. Now, Peyton Manning doesn't mind getting in a shootout, but you don't want to get in a shootout if you don't have to. Limit Josh Freeman's effectiveness down the field. Make him matriculate the ball down the field. He'll make some mistakes. You know, force him into some mistakes. Force them to punt the football or force them to make a 12-play, 85-yard drive. Don't allow them a 3-play, 77-yard drive. Those are the ones that are going to break your back when you're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you're the Bucs, same goes for you. The key is stopping the quarterback. Stop Peyton Manning. You need to limit his effectiveness. And that's easier said than done. I know. But your job is to get to Peyton Manning, get him off of his spot, harass him, make him uncomfortable, force him into some errant throws. Because one thing you know about Peyton Manning, he's not going anywhere. He's not going to escape the pocket. He's not a guy that you have to look for. You know exactly where he's going to be. You know where his address is. It's right behind the center. It's right behind the center. You know where he lives. You know where he'll be. You know where to find him. So there's no hiding. Get to Peyton Manning. Get him off his spot. Force him to make mistakes. That's your goal for this game. Way easier said than done. I know. Many have tried. Many have failed. But that's your goal for this game. You can't get that done, you probably won't win. I don't see you getting it done, and that's why I don't think you will win. 30-20, Broncos get it done. Broncos go to 9-3 on this season, and really for me, that wraps up the division. They're your AFC West champions. They win this game. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drop to 6-6 on the season. And again, they're one of these teams, if they get even with these losses, wins and losses get even with each other, which this loss to the Denver Broncos would do just that. Then I think those losses start leaving. And again, they've worked so hard to battle back and get, I think they were 6-4 at one point. They've battled back so hard in this season to get to 6-4. But this isn't the time to start playing bad football, and that's what they're doing. They got to find a way to win games. They got to find a way to beat good teams. And that's what they're struggling with these last 2 weeks if they're not able to beat Denver. Struggling with beating good teams. They got to find a way to do it. You want to go to the playoffs? That's all that's in the playoffs. It's good teams. Again, you're not going to find the Oakland Raiders. You're not going to find the Jacksonville Jaguars. You're not going to find the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. So if you want to go to the playoffs, you're going to be playing a good team. You need to start practicing beating them right now in the regular season. And if they lose this game, we've just talked about 3 6-5 teams in the NFC that have a legitimate shot of losing because they're all on the road. And they're all playing good teams. If these 6-5 teams can't get it done, those 5-6 teams, man, are they licking their chops because this gives them the opportunity that they need to get right back into the playoff race. So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on all of these 6-5 teams. Talking about the Minnesota Vikings, Seattle Seahawks, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're all on the road. They're all playing teams well over 500. They're all playing tough teams that give them matchup nightmares. This could be a week where the 6-5 teams falter again. So that's something to keep an eye on. You look at the next game on the slate. The Pittsburgh Steelers head to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. And I really don't have much to say about this game this time around because the luster and the intrigue has really been snatched out of this game. The life of this game has really been taken because of the injury to Ben Roethlisberger, because of the state of the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. This is one of those games where you expect the Steelers to lose. You expect them to lay down for the Ravens. Not get trolloped or trounced. But you don't expect them to win this game. But in a series between two teams that you just never know what to expect, this is probably the best family business we have in the NFL right now. You just don't know what's going to happen. This might be the game Charlie Batch decides to go for 3 touchdown passes. No interception. And they find a way to beat the Ravens on the road. I highly doubt that. But I'm just saying you just never know what to expect. Right now, everyone expects the Steelers to lose, including myself. I don't expect them to go to Baltimore and get a win, especially after the showing they had a week ago. No way. But these are the type of games that teams like the Steelers rise to the occasion and find a way to win. Palomalu has been practicing. They're optimistic that he'll be able to play. That's a big addition for them if he's able to come back. Hopefully he's able to play a whole game this time. That would be a big addition to this team, but the fact of the matter is they're the #1 defense in the league. But if the offense isn't going to help, if the offense is going to be a hindrance for that matter, they can't win games. So the key here is offense has to do something. You can't turn it over. You can't have a lackluster running attack, especially with a third-string quarterback like Charlie Batch. You need your running game to be stellar. You need your guys, and they have 3 or 4 good backs now. You know, they went from a team that you were questioning what were they going to do without Rashard Mendenhall. Now they got 3, 4, maybe even 5 viable backs in their backfield. You look at Rashard Mendenhall. You look at a Jonathan Dwyer. You look at a Chris Redman. You look at a Chris Rainey. I mean, that's 4 guys right there that, I'm not saying you can give it to them 25 times, but those are 4 guys that you feel comfortable handing the football off to or dumbing it to them out of the backfield and asking them to make some things happen for you. So they need to be special. These backs need to be special. Last week, they were anything but in that loss against the Browns. They were a big part of the reason why the Steelers lost that game, and they need to be really good in this game to help them have a chance. I just don't see the Ravens losing to these Steelers at home. I feel the same way about this game as I did 2 weeks ago when they were in Pittsburgh. If you can't beat the Steelers without Ben Roethlisberger, and this time you're at home, so there's even more pressure on you to win. But I thought 2 weeks ago in Pittsburgh, if you can't beat the Steelers without Ben Roethlisberger, then what does that say about you as a team? You need to beat the Steelers without Ben Roethlisberger. And now that you've seen what the Browns were able to do at home against this Steelers team without the services of Ben Roethlisberger, you need to win this game at home. There's nothing else to really talk about. That's why there's not a lot to say about this game, because you know what's at stake. You know what you need to do, and you know what the task is at hand. There's no Ben Roethlisberger. You need to win this game. Simple as that. And that's what I have you doing, 17-10, taking care of some family business at home against your most hated rival in the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Joe Flacco needs to just play solid football. With Charlie Batch being your counterpart in this game, you don't need to go out and light the Steelers up for 330 passing yards. You just need to be solid and don't turn it over. You know this defense wants to force you into some mistakes. Don't give in. Just go out, be steady. You know, be 17 of 23 for 185 yards, 201 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and keep it moving. That's all you need to do. If you do that, hand it off to Ray Rice 22 times, let him get 85 to 100 yards, have a score, that'll be more than enough to beat the Steelers team in their current state. And that's all you need to do, and that's all I see you having to do to win this game. That's why I have you winning this game 17-10, getting it done against the Steelers. This is going to be another defensive struggle, which is what we've come to know in this rivalry. And I expect the Ravens to be out on the winning end of this defensive struggle. 17-10. That'll move them to 10-2 on the season. No one's talking about the Ravens being 10-2. Maybe because of all the injuries, maybe because they haven't been overly impressive in doing so. But what team has? You know, you look at all of the double-digit win teams in this season, and none of them have been overly impressive. Maybe the Texans have been the most impressive this season, but they've been blown out before this season. They've done some blowing out, but they haven't wiped away their opponents either. They're a team that puts it on cruise control when they know they can beat you. And they just put the cruise control button on, and they just sit back, and they just let the car drive itself. And so, you know, sometimes they lose points for that. But I don't think a lot of people are talking about this Ravens team, and they could be 10-2 after this game. Amazing enough, you look at the Steelers, they're going in the wrong direction at the wrong time of this season. This loss will put them at 6-6. And tell you what, the way they're playing right now, Ben Roethlisberger doesn't hurry back. They'll find themselves on the outside looking in of the playoff race in the AFC. I'm going to be honest with you. These games in the latter half of the day, these 4 o'clock games, and even a Sunday night game, they all stink. I don't like the stench of any of them. Not going to spend a lot of time on them because I don't think it's worth our time to sit here and talk about games that really are irrelevant. This next game is not as irrelevant as the next 2 after it, but nonetheless, the Cincinnati Bengals are traveling to San Diego to take on the Chargers. Make this one really brief. The Bengals need this game. The Bengals need this game and all the games after it. They don't need to lose many more games. They've been surging of late. After dropping, 4 straight, after starting the season 3-1, then going to 3-5, they've won 3 straight. Now they're 6-5 on the season. They're playing really good football. They're playing really, really good football. On the defensive end, they're playing good on offense. They're starting to find other weapons other than A.J. Green, and that's been a key in this stretch. Guys have been stepping up because we all know what A.J. Green can do. We know what A.J. Green is. Adriel Jeremiah Green is a problem in the National Football League for many years to come. He's going to be a top-flight receiver from now until the day he decides to stop playing football. He's a problem, and he has the body type and the skill set to be a problem for the next 10 years. So, you know what A.J. Green brings to the table. Forget about him. They need other options. They need guys to step up. Jermaine Gresham needs to step up. All of a sudden now, Mohamed Sanu seems to be that guy across from A.J. Green that's stepping up. And I said, coming into this season, he needed to be the guy. They drafted him in the 3rd round for a reason. He needed to be a guy that they could rely on. He was hurt early on in the season. He wasn't practicing, so they didn't trust to put him in the game. Now he's been healthy. He's been practicing. They like what they see, and I thought they would because he was ultra productive at Rutgers. And I thought this was a guy that could come in and help them right away, and now he's starting to do so. So now you get Mohamed Sanu across from him making plays. You sprinkle in some Jermaine Gresham. You get something out of this run game with Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis. And I thought early on in the season, he was a non-factor. And I was disappointed with him because I thought he was a great upgrade from Cedric Benson. I thought maybe this guy could be, a missing piece for this Cincinnati Bengals offense because he has a knack for getting in the end zone. He's faster than you think. He's a lot quicker than you think. And so maybe he's the guy that can help put this Cincinnati Bengals team over the top. Then he comes in, does nothing early on, and you're thinking, wow, he's really doing much of nothing on this team. He's not making a difference. And now he's starting to step up. He had his best game of the season last week against the Raiders. He's looking to build off of that. And I think now they can start playing solid in all phases of their offense. This defense has really been good all season long. Look out. They're playing a San Diego Chargers team that are inventing ways to lose. I've never seen a 4th and 29 converted on a 6-yard dump off that turns into a 30-yard gain on 4th and 29 when you know they have to have it. And that's where the Chargers are right now. That play was a microcosm of their season. They are pathetic. And I'm not going to tell you what the number 1 rule is because you know what it is. I don't need to tell you what it is anymore. Games like last week reinforce what the number 1 rule is. So won't get into that. I don't think they're good enough to beat this Bengals team who's playing hot football right now. I really don't think that the Bengals need to stumble here. They just need to come out, play solid football, get after Phillip Rivers. I think that's the key in this game. Get after Phillip Rivers, and Phillip will throw you the football. He'll throw it to you 2 or 3 times if you get after him. This defensive line, this defensive front for the Cincinnati Bengals, it's one of the better ones, the most unheralded, most unsung in the league. Many people don't talk about what they're doing out there with Geno Atkins and Gathers and Michael Johnson and all those guys that they have, Mata Pico, but they got guys out there that can get it done. And so I think Cincinnati will go into San Diego and get a win. They're supposed to win. They're the better team. They're fighting for a playoff spot. You don't have time to lose to 4-7 teams on the road like the San Diego Chargers when you're looking to get a playoff spot. You need to beat them, dispose of them, and continue on your march to try to get back to the playoff for the 2nd consecutive season. Bengals 24, Chargers 20. Bengals go to 7-5 on the season. Chargers go to 4-8 on the season. Next up, Cleveland Browns travel to Oakland to take on the Raiders. This game stinks. Tell you one thing. Raiders have been struggling of late. Browns have been playing better football of late. 2 bad teams, both at 3-8 on the season. Browns have some confidence right now. They just beat the Steelers. Haven't really been able to do that in the last probably 3-4 seasons. They're feeling good about themselves. Raiders, on the other hand, struggling. They've been beat up and blown out in every game for the last month. They've been giving up over 34 points for every game for the last month. And so this is a breath of fresh air for the Raiders. They're home. It's the Browns. They're not going to put up 34 points. So you feel good about that. Now you just feel like we just need to come out, play our game. And if I'm hearing it correctly, Darren McFadden has been practicing this week. Looks like he's going to be able to go. That's exactly what you need to hear if you're a Raiders fan. Don't know if he's going to be able to run on this Cleveland Browns front, however. But still, just him being back on the field adds a dimension to your offense that hasn't been present since he left the offense. So that's something that the Raiders have to hang their hat on. I don't like this Browns team on the road. I already told you. If the Browns win, they're going to be at home. Now, this Raiders team isn't a world beater of a squad, and so you want to know why this Browns team can't get it done on the road. Because they're not a good football team. And good football teams usually don't win on the road. Now, they can win this game because the Raiders haven't been playing good football of late. But for some reason, I just feel like the Raiders are at home. The Browns have struggled all year on the road. Haven't really seen what I need to see from this Browns team on the road to convince me that they can go beat a bad Raiders team on the road. So I'm going to go with the home team. You know how I feel about 2 bad teams playing against each other. Unless you're doing something that has my interest. None of these teams are doing anything that piques my interest right now. I'm just going to go with the home team. Raiders are going to get it done. 23-19. Another one of these games to forget. You probably won't watch it. I will. I'll come back and report to you my findings on Monday. Oh yeah, by the way, Raiders will be 4-8 if they get the win. Browns will be 3-9 if they lose. Last game on the Sunday slate sees the Philadelphia Eagles, who will be without Michael Vick again, probably won't have Shady McCoy again, taking on the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Why this game wasn't flexed out of this spot beats me. Maybe because there isn't really another game on this list that really moves the needle one way or the other. You know the Cowboys move the needle. They just show up and people start watching because you either love the Cowboys or you hate them. Either way, you're going to watch because you either want to see them fail or you want to see them succeed. And I guess NBC knows that, and that's why this game isn't being flexed. But I tell you what, this isn't going to be a good game. I mean, Nicholas Foles, we saw this story already. We saw this movie. We already know how it ends. It ends in Nicholas Foles turning the football over 2 or 3 times, Cowboys taking them in for touchdowns, and the Cowboys winning, going away. So we really don't need to see this movie again. We've seen it. We know how it ends. We know the narrative. We know the story. We know what the plot is. We know how it ends. There's going to be a few climactic parts of this movie, but for the most part, we know how it ends. Cowboys win, running away with it. And the Eagles are a mess right now. You really think they're going to go on the road in the division and handle some family business? No, they're not going to do it. They couldn't even beat the Panthers last week at home. These guys stink. And so, yeah, it's family business. And so you throw everything out the window. I always say that. And yes, that's what you have to do. You have to give the Eagles their just due. You have to give them a chance because this is family business. But still, they're not a good football team. And Nicholas Foles isn't going to beat anybody on the road. Just don't see them being competitive in this game. At least not enough to threaten the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to win this one going away. All they have to do is not self-destruct. Don't turn it over. Tony Romo can't share. It's the season of giving. He can't give in this game like he did against the Redskins, like he's done several times against the Giants this season. He needs to make sure that he takes care of the football. I think DeMarco Murray is going to play in this game. Whether he does or not, I really don't think it matters. I think they'll be able to get it done with whoever plays. But I think he's going to play. It looks like he's been practicing all week. They'll welcome his return as the running game hasn't been the same since he's left. If he can get it going down the stretch, this Cowboys team could be a tough team to contend with. I see them winning this game in a rout. Cowboys 27, Eagles 13. This game shouldn't be close. And again, that back half of this week and the games, really not all that interesting to me. Really not all that intriguing. Really not games that you have to keep a close eye on. Now look, the teams playing in them have things to play for in some instances. The Cowboys are 5-6. And we've already talked about all those 6-5 teams having a really good possibility of losing. The Cowboys win this game, which they should. They go to 6-6. Boom, they're right in the playoff discussion. They've already beat Tampa Bay, so they own that head-to-head matchup. They lost to the Seahawks, so they don't own that head-to-head matchup. You know, they're right there in the thick of things, though, if they're able to win this game. So that's something worth keeping an eye on. Same thing with Cincinnati. They win that game. They're 7-5. They're right there in the AFC discussion for a playoff spot. So while these games don't seem intriguing on the surface, they do have deeper meanings underneath the surface. But looking at them from afar, these games don't look to be very appealing games. And so I'll watch them. You don't have to. I'll save you the trouble of having to watch them. I'll watch them for you, report back to you what I see. And so that's going to do it. That's a touchdown. Go ahead and throw it up. I'm going to tackle on this quick extra point. So I was able to get a win last night. You know how I like to start my Thursdays off nice and fresh and clean. You know how I love to start my sheet off clean. No losses. Going into Sunday, give me a shot with a clean slate to go in and get it done. So I feel good about that. I feel good at the fact that I was able to start it off because this wasn't a layup. This wasn't a gimme game on Thursday where you could just say, yeah, they're going to win. I felt good about my pick, but it still had to be executed out on the field. I felt good about the Falcons in this one, but it's just family business. You just don't know what to expect. So they were able to get the win. Now, I want this one. I want this week really bad. I want this week in the worst way. I want to win this football pool because I feel like I've done my due diligence now. I've done my homework. I've put in my time. I've done everything that I've needed to do to put myself in a position to win a football pool. And now I'm tired of people getting lucky with games like the Browns and me having, screw-ups like the Rams against the Cardinals and me picking the Cardinals because I had a vendetta against the Rams. I'm over it. I'm not thinking with my heart anymore. I'm thinking with my head. I'm making smart picks. And now I feel like it's my time. And there's nothing better than to have a football pool on the line with your boys playing on Monday Night Football, which will be the case this Monday if I can find a way to make it to Monday night. And of course I went with my boys. And so I feel really confident that if I can just get to Monday night, I got a good shot. And I feel like this is the week that I want to do it. I really feel like I can do it this week. I like my picks a lot this week. I like it a lot. And so if I can just find a way to avoid the dumb losses and the upset bug, if I can just find a way to be on the left side of some of these games that could go either way, man, tell you what, I'll be happy about that. Because it's games like Jacksonville at Buffalo. If I pick the wrong team, those are the ones that cost you. Someone can have the same exact picks as you, but have Buffalo on their sheet. That'd be the one game that stops you from doing anything. It's going to be games like that that are going to define my chances this week. Indianapolis at Detroit. What are you going to do? Those are the games that will define my week. I got to find a way to win these games because these are the ones that could go either way. People are going to pick it one way or the other. And if you make a mistake, it could cost you in the long run. So feel good about my picks. Stay tuned at the end of this episode. All the picks will be listed from the Pick'em Weekly of last week and all the weeks previous to that. Also, the overall record of the Lab Room will be listed at the end of the show. You'll see what I've been doing as far as picking games. I had a heck of a week last week. I plan on carrying that momentum into this week, having another stellar week. And look, I'm a guy with a lot of bravado. I'm a guy that boasts that I get it, I know what I'm doing. And so you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody doing it better than me. And I'll be the first to tell you. I don't think there's many out there doing it better than me. I'll put my overall season record up against anybody's. I don't care who you are. I don't care how good you think you've done this season. I've only had probably 2 bad weeks where I can just say, yeah, I'd love to take that whole week, throw it out the window, take that whole week, throw it out the window. But I guarantee you, those same 2 weeks I'm referring to, you didn't have a great week either. So, yeah, I feel good about what I'm doing, prognosticating these games. I feel good about the picks that I'm coming with this week in the Pick'em Weekly. And so I plan on coming back to you on Monday singing the same tune I sung last week. Hopefully, I'm singing an even better tune because I'm in the football pool. And it'll be Monday, and the Redskins will be playing Monday Night Football. I'll be excited. I'll be juiced. Let's just hope that has something on the line and not just a Redskins victory on the line. Not just the Redskins playoff hopes will be on the line. Let's hope that game has added meaning to it. Me winning a football pool. And that's going to do it for this episode in the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me. Again, it was a long episode. You know how Fridays are. It's how we get down on Fridays. It's always long because we got to go through all those games and we got to talk about what we saw the night before on Thursday Night Football. So you know how long these Friday episodes can get. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Many ways to view the show. The first is Facebook. Every episode I've ever done on Facebook, in the Lab Room, is the Facebook page. Like me on Facebook. Also, I'm on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. @In the Lab Room is the Twitter handle. So, you know, every video is also on Twitter. I always post them there as well. So check that out. You can drop something in the inbox if you want to contact me. @In the Lab Room or in the Lab Room @gmail.com is the inbox. Drop something in there. I'll respond immediately. Also, the easiest, most efficient way to contact me or to view the show is YouTube. Louis T is the page. Subscribe to it. You'll have every video right at your fingertips. No delay. You'll get them right away. Drop a comment at the bottom of the video if you have something to say. It comes directly to my inbox. I'll see it and I'll respond. I thank you for joining me as always. Have fun this weekend. Enjoy your weekend. There's good college football on. We're going to figure out who's going to play my Notre Dame Fighting Irish, the national championship game, after this SEC championship game commences, and we'll figure out which one of these teams will be battling my Irish for the best in the country in the 2012-2013 season. So a lot of fun there. It's many things for you to do. Get out, have some fun, enjoy this season. This is the best season of all the seasons. This holiday season, there's not a better time. Enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, enjoy your weekend, enjoy the football over the weekend. And as always, take care of yourself and have a good one.
is